Hello, Management 3503 students. This is Paul Craig with my Week 2 comments on our assignments. We didn't do quite as well this week as we did last week, but don't fret. There's lots of points in this class and many opportunities to make up for the points. Many of you had difficulty with the assignment this week, so I want to spend a couple of minutes going through what I was expecting. In the assignment, I was expecting three things. Number one, I wanted to get an understanding of the problem situation that you had chosen for the assignment. This is kind of setting the context for the problem. Number two, I was looking for a clear and concise problem statement. Both the strategies and the Smart Choices book have lots of instances where they provide a very good explanation of what a good problem statement is and the traps that people fall into in trying to craft a problem statement. So I looked for a clear and concise problem statements. For my own purposes, I like to use a problem statement that is phrased as a question. How do I improve X? Or what is the best approach for resolving Y? Because asking it as a question forces the focus on, or clarifies the focus on what we're trying to achieve. The third thing I'm looking for is a list of objectives that are outcomes that we're trying to achieve, not that are actions that we're going to take. And this is a very important distinction. If the objective that you identified required you to take certain steps, it was not an objective, it was an alternative for solving the problem. If the objective is strictly an outcome that you can measure, then it is a true objective and something that you can use in evaluating the problem. Hope this helps. I have 5 comments to make on our assignments. Number one, I asked you to make your assignments easy to grade. This course is a business course. Look at it as business writing. Take a careful look at the assignment. If the assignment calls for a problem definition, have a heading that says problem definition and make it easy for me to find it. If the assignment calls for a list of items, use a bulleted list or a numbered list to make it easy for me to find the items that you're looking at. The text shows a number of ways of using charts and graphs to demonstrate your points. Use similar techniques. The key is on clear and concise communication. Number 2, not every decision must follow a formal process. Sometimes letting your experience or traps, as we've learned this week, guide your decision helps you get to a faster decision that is perfectly acceptable for the problem that you're trying to solve. The key as a manager is knowing when you're good to follow your experience and potentially traps, and when you need to invoke a slower, more structured decision-making process. This is the challenge that we're going to be addressing in this class, and hopefully develop some skills and ability in doing that. Number 3, know where you are in the decision-making process. I look at the process as a 5 or 6 step process. Number 1 is the problem definition that results in a problem statement, as we talked about earlier. 2 is objectives. 3, identification of alternatives. 4, analysis of alternatives. 5, risk analysis. 6, decision. Some people will add implementation and evaluation of results to this list. But it's important to know where you are in the list, in the process, because it forces clarity of thought and focusing on the right questions to ask at each step. So I encourage you to do that. We spent time this week on objectives, and I thought it'd be useful to share some additional information about the objectives, and I will throw into this constraints that are often needed in order to structure a good problem analysis. You can look for objectives in 5 or 6 different areas. Number 1, business outcomes that you're trying to achieve. This is where you look at profit, revenue, new markets that you want to enter, sales goals, and so forth. Number 2, organizational objectives. This is retention, employee satisfaction, organizational effectiveness. There are also budget constraints that you must meet. Budget for a particular line item, expected savings, the cost of the solution must fit within a certain budget. These constraints are important. There are also regulations that come into play, whether they're government regulations or industry standards, but they represent constraints that will guide your decision. Next, I look at performance goals or objectives. It might be reduce costs or reduce defects or increase productivity, reduce customer satisfaction or improve customer satisfaction. These are all sources for good sets of objectives. Sometimes your objective is going to be short-term and tactical. Sometimes they're going to be longer-term and strategic. All of these things are valid objectives as long as they're stated as outcomes that are measurable, things that you can reasonably collect data on and observe. Number 5, for the remainder of this class, I would like each of you to take the role of the manager. In many of your discussion posts or papers, you've talked about the management as some outside entity. And I would like us in this class to put ourselves in the role of manager. It'll help us to be better employees. It'll help us, if we're managers, to be better managers. But it's not management is them, it's management is us. And I think that's an important aspect of this class that will help us learn as we go through it. Hope this is helpful. I look forward to your questions and comments on your assignments this week.